everybody, and welcome to the Positively Disney podcast. I'm Kimberly Bouchard, the author of the Positively Disney book series and the host of the show. Thank you so much to my Twitch followers and Facebook for joining me tonight. Tonight, I've got a really special guest that I will introduce to you in just a moment. And after the guest is finished, I want to find out where you guys were when Star Wars was released, when the original was released. I don't know about you, but I remember that as clear as day, and I will share that with you after. I want to actually just mention a couple of other things. First of all, I hope you are enjoying this lovely Memorial Day weekend. And something that is kind of interesting, when we first moved here, I thought that there was no May long weekend in the United States. And I grew up with a May long weekend, but we always called it the May long weekend. But what happened is the US has their May weekend after Canada's, and Canada celebrates Queen Victoria's birthday on the Monday, not a memorial. Our memorial is celebrated, remember, the Remembrance Day on November 11th. So it's a little bit different, but it's been a lovely weekend. And thank you to all those out there who serve today and who have served. Thank you so much for all that you do. So there is a really fun event happening August 10th, and any of you that reside in the Pennsylvania area will be very happy to know that there's actually going to be a Disney fandom convention. You can find out all the details at mousefandom.com, but there's going to be photo ops and princesses and activities for the kids, Disney panel of experts. I'm going to be speaking there and sharing some really fun stories from the books. There's going to be Disney memorabilia, so check it out. There's a limited number of tickets for sale August 10th. Check it out at mousefandom.com. Also want to thank my sponsor, Michelle McKeown, over at The Mouse Experts, MMCKEOWN at theMouseExperts.com. 732-735-1779 is her number. And you know what, guys? She can get a terrific vacation set up for you. She specializes with military families, concierge, and children and families with disabilities as well. She provides texting access at all times during your vacation. How cool is that? Anyways, we celebrated a milestone this past week. Our family personally celebrated a wee bit of a milestone on May 25th ourselves, when our golden retriever, our baby, our big monster baby, Flynn, turned 11 months old. But May 25th was a significant date. 42 years ago, 42, that's incredible, Star Wars was released. And again, I will find out and want to find out where you guys were when that show was released. A big hello to Stephen. Stephen, thank you so much for serving and everything that you do. Carissa, Gina, and Todd, welcome to the show. So something else actually kind of happened Star Wars-ish in our family, and I'm so excited to share with you. So I don't know about you guys, but when Star Wars, if the films were out and you have children and that, what happens is you tend to get your kids the toys first. And right here with me, I actually have a lightsaber that was a special build at Walt Disney World that one of my kids had. I'm not sure if you can see it, but it does kind of make the sound. And that is like over 10 years old. Well, guess what? I got my own custom lightsaber on Friday, and I got to show you this because it's super cool and I absolutely love it. So this is my custom lightsaber, and I'm going to just give you a little sample of it. There we go. And you know what? Look at it. It even makes all the noise. I had so much fun with this on Friday night. I went outside. First, I learned a few kind of tricks with it, how to kind of maneuver it. and I won't do it here because I'll probably smash it up onto my computer screen. But I just had a blast, and I was actually out there till after midnight, Friday night with my son in our backyard, and it was like the super coolest thing out there. So I will be showing my technique at a later date, probably in a few days. We'll put up a video about it. Just want to welcome Chris and all of you that have just joined me. So I am very happy to tell you about my guest. His name is Gus Lopez, and believe it or not, he has, in some of the collections that he has of Star Wars, he is actually the world's largest collector in it. And other things, he's considered one of the world's largest private collectors. And I say private because, of course, George Lucas has the biggest of whatever, but Steve Sansweet and a few others out there still have very large collections. So he's one of the largest. I have been very fortunate to actually have been to his place in Seattle and seen this collection. And I'm telling you, it is beyond your wildest imagination. I cannot believe what I saw in his house. And so what I would like to do is get Gus on the line here for you guys to find out what he has in his home and what makes him the collector that he is. And then we'll talk about some of the things that he has collected from all over the world. So we're just going to get him on right now. Welcome to my husband, Jacques, who's in the Philippines, and Melissa and Clint. Thank you.
This is Gus.
Hi, Gus. It's Kimberly Bouchard. Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Good, thank you.
Good. Listen, I just mentioned to the folks that you are one of the world's top private collectors, and you have some areas that you are actually have the world's largest private collection. And I wanted to ask, first of all, what got you into collecting Star Wars?
Well, like many people who grew up with the films, it hit me as a kid when the film first came out in 1977, and then the sequels after that. It was just sort of life changing at the time, as many kids during the era went to it. And the Star Wars universe was just so conducive to collecting because you have all these different characters and ships and planets, and so there's a lot you can play with there that can take the form of different kinds of memorabilia. And so it was just sort of a natural thing to collect. Even as a kid, even from the very beginning, the action figures were like, collect the whole set. So I don't know, it was just like, it just hit me on just such a fundamental level at the time. And, I just loved it.
So you have been kind of a collector you've been a collector for decades, actually.
Yeah, I have. Yeah. And there was a period where they weren't seeing a lot of stuff that wasn't very active in it, like the late 80s. But I kept everything from childhood, and then really grew my collection starting in the early 90s.
So you actually did you actually start collecting some of the items, the Star Wars items, when you were a child, like when you had first, like from the get-go?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I didn't really play them that much, but I had, I did like dioramas and setups of like the action figures and toys, and I was more or less collecting it as a kid would.
Right.
But I was into it pretty early.
Wow.
But I didn't get serious about it until years later, like, finding things in package and that kind of thing. Didn't get into that till a lot later.
Right. And probably when you could more afford things too. I mean, as a kid, you're kind of strapped for cash when you're little, right?
Yeah, as a kid, you're kind of budget constrained. Yeah.
Exactly. A lot of lawns to mow, I would say, Gus, to acquire things, right?
Yeah, I went paper route, and that's a lot of my collection.
Yeah.
As a kid, I was just buying, just like deliver papers and then buy more stuff.
Okay. So I was just curious, can you share with us some of the larger pieces? And there's one that I have in mind that I saw that I'll ask about if you don't mention it, but please share with us some of these larger pieces and how in the world did you find them and then get them to your house?
Yeah, so yes, I collected a few categories just in context. So
okay.
I collect the vintage toys, I collect prototypes of the vintage toys, so things that went into making, designing the toys and so on. I collect cast and crew items, which are like shirts and caps some invitations, something like that, some people work on the films, some artwork. I collect food items, and I collect movie props and costumes used in the films. And so, if there's one theme that sort of unifies these categories, is that they're all incredibly difficult categories of collecting because the stuff is so scarce and hard to authenticate. So, I like a really good challenge. It's after collecting for many years, I've sort of refined my taste in these areas because I'm, would like a really good challenge. And so, in terms of volume, I would say the movie props and costumes take up the most space in the house. And so, I have, some pretty major pieces like Princess Leia's bikini costume from Return of the Jedi, which my sister wore. I have like Luke's belt from the first movie. The when you first see Luke, that's the belt he's wearing pretty much every scene.
Yeah.
You see him in the first half of the movie. Then I have like Han Solo's jacket, Harrison Ford's jacket from Empire Strikes Back, and the Death Star model from the first film, the 3D model they made of the Death Star is in the film. So all of these are, of course, pretty significant pieces, some of them one of a kind.
Yeah.
And I get them a whole bunch of different ways. I stay connected to lots of people, and so I have a pretty rich network of, just everywhere, just contacts, and I'm always aware of kind of what's out there. And I'm also at a point in my collecting where things find me, where people know I'm on the lookout for stuff, so people reach out to me when certain pieces come up. But it's really like different ways. I like many collectors, I prefer to be cheap. So usually I'm cheap. And actually, most of the time, I like to not have to spend too much money. And I do that most of the time. But then every once in a while, I'll splurge on something wild and major. Even there, I try to be pretty smart about it, not overspent. But so occasionally I'll buy an auction, which is usually the most expensive place to buy. But a lot of the stuff I got from people who worked on the films directly, and so you get it at a very fair, reasonable price, but not marked up like a big public auction.
Right. Gus, I have to ask this because it's just such an incredible piece that I saw. I mean, to anybody else that wouldn't know the context, they wouldn't understand. But you have a massive rock that, and you have C-3PO in the picture, in the photograph next to the rock. Now, where was that taken from, and how in the world did you acquire that?
So actually, I think what you're referring to is actually, not a rock, but a bone. So it's, where it's supposed to look like a bone. It's from this thing called so in the first movie, there was this crate dragon, which was this creature that you never see it live in the film, but when 3PO is walking in the desert, there's this skeleton of this huge dragon thing in the desert. And so that's a bone piece from that skeleton. And that's in the Sahara Desert in the middle of nowhere. Like it's in Tunisia, and that's where I found it. So I've gone out to pretty much most of the filming locations, including Tunisia, where they filmed the planet Tatooine. I've gone there 4 times.
Wow!
And each time I brought back lots of props. I think they left so much stuff.
Really? Oh my gosh! Really?
So they left a lot of stuff there. So on my first few trips, I found some pretty major pieces of the crate dragon skeleton, and they were just left there in the desert. But you have to sort of find it. The Sahara Desert's huge, and you have to know where they filmed in the desert, because you have to wander around all the desert looking for it. But and the films shift over time too, so they cover up the stuff that they left behind. So you have to dig a little bit to find things just beneath the surface. But it's where I found some of the crate dragon skeletons from the first movie.
Wow, Gus, are you obviously accompanied by people? So when you go there, but do you have to take a camel? Like, I mean, there aren't any roads. Really?
Oh
my gosh! You took a camel.
The first couple times we did go by camel. You can. There's fortunately they have in the area, they have people that will rent camels out.
Okay.
And so we went with a guide, a camel out to the location, which is you don't really need to, but it was actually kind of fun to do it that way, more exotic, and so on to do it that way. On subsequent trips, I hiked out to the location, which if you know where you're going, you can walk out there. It's not because if you know where you're going, you don't you can kind of walk on the sort of ridge lines of the dunes and make it out to the location.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it's kind of fun going out by camel and go looking around the area.
Wow.
And it's changed, since they filmed. It is a desert, so
Right.
dunes do shift.
Yeah.
I also went to the filming locations for. There's a bunch. They filmed several of the Star Wars movies in Tunisia, but they filmed Phantom Menace Episode 1. They built They actually built two massive sets. One really huge one, and then one smaller one. But both big sets out in the middle of the desert in the Sahara, and one of the sets got completely consumed by dunes. Like the dunes just shifted over the set, and then when the dunes started to come out of the set was destroyed. And then the other set, they've been trying to protect it, so they have people there now with a fence, and they try to keep the dunes at bay so that the dunes don't shift over the set, so they can keep it as sort of a tourist destination.
Oh, wow.
It's a weird tourist destination because you basically are like 40 miles from the nearest desert town, and then you just sort of drive out on the sand in your car.
Oh my gosh!
Out on the sand to the set that's out in the middle of nowhere.
That's
and you have to sort of
wild.
know where you're going too, because you can get lost.
Well, yeah. Yeah, my gosh. Well, I'm just wondering. So now we're going to get a lot of treasure seekers, I think, out there.
Yeah.
So be careful.
Well,
wow.
First time I went, I did give GPS coordinates and directions to people. But people if try it should take precaution always.
Yeah.
Because it is the desert, and you want to carry water, and for example, I know one couple that took some of my directions, went out in the desert, and their car broke down, and they were stuck out there overnight, and so things can happen, and so you have to be very, very careful. You can get stuck in the sand very easily, but that's just to give you an idea of like how I
was going to say how avid a collector you are, because most collectors would not be traipsing around in the Sahara for sure, right? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible. That is so fun. Gosh, it's you're not only a collector, but it's kind of like you're a treasure hunter too, like a Star Wars treasure hunter, right?
It's certainly even in the U.S., like a lot of the things I built in early years that a lot of collectors know me for the most actually is the toy prototypes. So my friends and I had contacted hundreds of people that worked at Kenner Products, which made the toys for Star Wars, and just interviewed and met like pretty much every employee at Kenner during all those years. And so we acquired so many like one-of-a-kind things that went into making the toys.
Wow.
And so a lot of it was treasure hunting, is just finding these people before,
other people to be the first man out there. Yeah, for sure. I was curious to know, so you had the Death Star. So did that come apart? I mean, it's not something you can really put in your suitcase.
Apart. No, it's actually barely even fits in the house.
I know.
So wide.
Yeah.
It just clears the door in the front door of the house to get in the house.
Wow.
So,
wow.
There's no way to. There's nothing you can do. It's like you can't rotate outside. You still can't. Yeah. So it's actually hard to get into the house. But and I've had it on loan. The Mopop Museum in Seattle. I had it on loan to them for 5 years. A few years back. I loan them pieces all the time, and I have a few pieces on loan right now. And so, but occasionally, I loan them different things.
Oh, fun. Well, I could imagine if that Death Star wasn't going to fit in your house, I could just imagine you getting out your hacksaw and cutting a kind of a sphere in the doorway to make sure you get it in, because that.
The door would if it were a matter of like no other way to get it in, the door would be the first thing to go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh my goodness. You had another piece. It was a square piece. I thought a square piece from a Death Star, and it looked like a tile. But what was that from? Oh, okay.
Yeah. So after the Death Star, it was the big model of the Death Star had is a 3D model, so it's a spherical model of the Death Star. It's the only one they made for the first movie.
Okay.
They also did flat sections of the Death Star. So for all the for the close-up surface shots when the ships are like flying over the surface, they made lots of flat pieces, and they made those at 3 different scales. They made them at different sizes depending on the amount of detail they wanted. So I have a couple pieces like that, but I have one huge one one of the biggest size pieces. It's like 2 foot by 2 foot
Yeah.
section, and so that's like from a flyover. So it's a pretty nice piece, but it's just
Yeah.
very, just sort of very Star Wars
Well, it's
look to
very
it,
authentic. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah. Before
I
that, yeah, it's in our guest bedroom over the bed. So
Yeah,
it's very nice.
exactly. Yeah. So I also noticed a few other things I just kind of wanted to mention. So you had actually one of Yoda's walking sticks, which, it's
That's
really
right.
interesting to see that because it's not the size that I thought it would be. And there's that whole saying that Yoda says, "Judge me by my size, do you?" And I
Yeah,
laugh because that
yeah,
that walking stick is really tiny, actually.
yeah. It's really tiny. Yeah, no, it's not a very big piece because
Yeah.
Yoda's not very high,
Yeah.
tall like character.
Right.
Yeah, and I also have a Yoda rehearsal puppet. I have they made like a Muppet style of Yoda so they could practice. So Frank Oz and Mark Hamill could practice interactions between Yoda and Luke.
Mm.
And so I have that puppet before they made the final ones for the film. But what turned out the final, so the ones they used on screen
Hmm.
are all destroyed because they used foam latex, which really deteriorates. So there's
Right.
really no great examples of Yodas that were used in the movie.
Hmm.
So this rehearsal puppet is actually one of the best examples of something related to the filming because it wasn't used on screen, but it did tons of behind the scenes photography showing them practicing with this rehearsal puppet.
Oh, fun. Oh, that's fun. Something else that I noticed was there I call it cutlery or silverware of Anakin Skywalker and in I'm not sure which from which scene you got that from. He must have been eating
Yes,
something,
yeah,
but
I got that from another collector. It's
ah,
cutlery from episode 2 from the dining room scene where they have they're using like forks and spoons
yeah.
and they'd actually noticeably use them in that scene and it looks like for that they may have bought they may not have custom made that. I think they might have bought some stock but exotic
Right.
kind of cutlery for that scene
Hmm.
but that's yeah
Really
that's
neat.
from used. Yeah, it's kind of
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. I mean, because it's something that I haven't seen personally around that I would eat from,
Yeah,
it's something very unique.
totally.
Yeah. And I noticed also, and I know that there's so many fans. I mean, I think everybody loves the musical scores of John Williams.
Yeah,
And so you have several. I mean, you had so much there that night. I mean, I could have spent hours in there, but I could only spend a
yeah,
couple. So you had the gold albums, or what? Can you tell me about that? All along the
yeah,
walls there.
yeah. So yeah, I have a lot of gold and platinum records, and they're from like the narrated records, the soundtracks.
Mm.
The like Miko did this artist Miko did a disco version of Star Wars. So there's a
Ah,
whole bunch of Star Wars like music and narrated stuff that were issued in albums or in singles. And
yeah.
so I have lots of the record awards for like I think something like I want to say like maybe 35 to 40 of
Yeah, a
them.
lot.
Different, well, all different. And
Yeah.
and the thing is like that, and that's an example of of something that like you put them on the wall, and you've seen like they're sort of I try to nicely arrange them on the walls, like lining the walls,
Hmm.
but it makes it sort of look easy. But each one of those is unbelievably hard to find because they don't make very many of them. They make like if a record goes platinum, they may make one of them. They may make 20 of them to give to executives, but there's not a whole lot of them,
Oh,
for each one. And
wow.
but I just spent years just hunting them down and trying to find all the different ones I could find. And
Wow.
so that's how I acquired a whole bunch of them. But yeah, I have quite a few different ones.
Yeah. And I know so something that I didn't tell people what you have well, I mean, you have several of the world's largest collections, but
Yeah,
the cereal box room, if you could share with people, it was guys, this
no,
was the coolest thing. I mean, it's all cool, but it
yeah,
was so cool.
yeah.
So tell people about
Yeah, the
that.
cereal room. Yeah, so I do collect a lot of the food stuff, but I like the cereal stuff is my favorite. And the cereal room is one of my favorites. It basically what I love about cereal is just it has this so many of these recognizable characters from Americana that just that are just popular with kids, especially when I was growing up. It was these are just name brand sort of cereals that everybody loved
Mhm.
mixed with Star Wars. So they have all these Star Wars promotions on them. And the thing is, cereal collecting is so hard, really hard. Nobody saves old cereal boxes.
Right. You
You think they
recycle.
would, but they don't. Nobody
Yeah.
saves them. So
Yeah.
so they're very, very tough to find. And then if you go international, it's even tougher because the U.S. has a pretty good culture of pretty much everybody being a pack rat and hoarding stuff, but like other countries, not so much. And so when you're dealing with countries like Australia or Britain or Canada, where populations are less than the U.S. And people don't have as much huge houses where they store everything, really hard to find those cereal boxes. So I got into it because it was a challenge. It was just really hard. And when I started in the 90s, I was just sort of going after every vintage cereal box that had been made. And at the time, they'd only made about 50 total worldwide. So that was the US, Canada, Great Britain, Australia, New Zealand. Those were really the only countries that had cereal. And so it was sort of a very attainable thing. There were like 50 cereals. Unfortunately, or fortunately, when they started to release new movies, they've just gone crazy in cereal promotions all over the world. So now I have over 2,000 different cereal boxes from all over the world, and there's like over 100 countries represented. And I have contacts in all these countries. I have like over 300 people that help me find cereals. Anytime there's a new movie, they go check their supermarkets in their country, find them for me, and that's how I do it. But the cereal room basically is wall to wall covered in cereal boxes and cereal premiums, and it's just a small sample of what I got. It's only like a couple hundred boxes, whereas I have like thousands, a couple thousand boxes.
Well,
of those cereals,
and that's even going to increase more because with episode 9 coming out and all the countries that carry the boxes, you're going to be another 100 at least. Yeah.
No. It's usually a film. Yeah, it depends on the film, but usually we'll add hundreds of new boxes.
Yeah.
Because there's so many countries involved now.
Well, and and I noticed that some actually still have cereal in them. So I'm curious to know, have you ever eaten stuff or tried a little bit?
So mostly I try to get the food out of there. I don't like.
Yeah, I know.
Most food collecting, you don't keep food in it because over time you run the risk of like insects or rodents or the food decaying.
Right.
Well, but I have a couple cases. There's a few examples where I have sealed boxes that I've kept sealed with the food. But we did at Star Wars Celebration this past April. My friends and I hosted a big party in one of the nights, and we did an eating contest of Threepios cereal, which at this point is 35-year-old cereal. And we had like maybe 12 entrants in the contest.
Really?
So people who tried it, 35-year-old cereal. And the funny part is that they try it and they say it's actually not that bad. Like it's stale, but it's not as bad as you think.
Okay.
The cereal, like, once it's stale, it's just stale cereal.
Right.
So actually, it was funny to watch like 12 people eat a whole bowl of 35-year-old cereal.
Oh.
So occasionally I save a few bags for fun, stuff like that.
Right.
I don't know if I want to do it again. 35 years is really pushing it. At some point, it could actually be unhealthy and really dangerous.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They didn't tell you about any residual effects afterwards, did they?
No, they didn't. We didn't actually get them to sign waivers, but we had a lawyer draft up.
Oh, yeah.
I was a little worried, like are they going to sue us if they get sick? But I also don't want them to get sick.
No, of course not.
It turned out it was just stale cereal. And I tried a little bit of it when I saw that people didn't faint from it. And, it wasn't terrible. It was just stale.
Right. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Do you remember eating the Star Wars cereals when you were a kid? Do you like?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I used to different cereals and premiums and I remember.
Yeah. I want to ask you, because I know you're also an author, but there's a guest on here that is asking about where he can see the pieces of the Death Star that you have on loan. What is the name of the place that you have loaned some of your things again?
Yes, it's the Mopop Museum. So it's basically the Museum of Pop Culture in Seattle.
Like the EMP. It used to be called the EMP.
It is the EMP renamed themselves. to the Mopop Museum. It's just the new name for
Okay.
EMP.
Okay, cool.
Because the EMP was Experience Music Project, and
Right.
then as they started to do science fiction and then do pop culture stuff, they decided to rebrand it as Mopop to be a pop culture museum.
Okay.
So it's a fan museum. And yeah, that's things on loan there right now, and there's several Star Wars things on loan there.
Oh, fun. I'll have to check it out too. Bring my family there as well. So, Gus, as an author, I think you've got a few books that you have authored. Can you tell the audience what you wrote about and where people can find them?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So, I've co-authored 5 books, and I've also and then I've also edited 1 book, and I've contributed to a whole bunch of other books.
I bet.
But so the most of the work I've done in collaboration with Duncan Jenkins, and he and I have written books on a few different themes. There are unique themes that in collecting that others haven't covered. Like, so for example, we did a comprehensive guide. It was our first book. We actually spent 5 years working on the book, and it was documenting pretty much every item that we could find, like everything we knew about at the time, and basically have a unique entry for every single item ever made.
Wow.
And at the time we wrote the book, it was 77,000 items that we accounted for.
Wow.
They've made of Star Wars, and since then, of course, they've made even more.
Yeah.
So at some point we'll do a second edition, but it's like the book is almost 1,000 pages, and it's got tens of thousands of photos in it. So it's pretty thick, intense book, but it's held up. I mean, really, nobody, I think, ever covered just the depth of Star Wars as much as that book.
Wow.
It's just hard. It took us years to do it.
And what's the title? What's the title of it?
Gus and Duncan's Comprehensive Guide to Star Wars Collectibles.
Okay.
And if you go to completistpublications.com, that's where you can buy all our books. So Completist was just like the word. So
word complete.
COMPLETIST publications.com.
Okay.
And that's, you can get all our books there. You can also get them on Amazon as well.
Okay.
But usually we have all of them in stock on Completist Publications. We also did a book on Star Wars toy prototypes, and that's more like a coffee table book, picture book on a lot of unreleased toys, things that had never been, that were considered by canon but were never made, or different prototypes in the design process of making the toys. Just sort of a glimpse at that. We did a book on cast and crew items. That showed all the different types of just things that they gave to crew members while they were making the Star Wars movies, which is one of the areas that I specialize in.
Right. And
then we did a book on the Star Wars Micro Collection, which is this line of small toys that Kenner made in the vintage years that was not really popular during that time, but became super popular with collectors. So those are the 4 books I did with Duncan, and then I did a book called Year by Year that was done with Lucasfilm it was done with several other authors, and basically that was going through all the different years of Star Wars, and what was going on elsewhere in the world, but then also what was going on in Star Wars, and I focused on the collectibles parts of that book.
Wow, that's a lot. My gosh, and then you work full time, and you've got your wife, of course, and then you collect. Oh my goodness!
My spare time.
Yeah. My gosh. Yeah. So as a fan yourself, are there any special moments, Gus, that come to mind that you have experienced as a result of your collecting or your involvement with the whole Star Wars franchise?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I would say there's lots of amazing moments. I think opportunities and doors that open for me that normally I wouldn't get to if I wasn't so deep into it. Like, I've been invited to the screenings in Hollywood with the cast of some of the recent movies. So that's, of course, a thrill.
Pretty special, yeah.
I got to visit the set and the filming of The Force Awakens. So I got on set at Pinewood Studios and saw them film. Well, I saw them film a huge action scene, which was amazing. And then I got on a whole bunch of sets. And that was spectacular. That was before anyone knew what the film was about or anything. And so I had to like
Oh,
sign away my life saying,
right.
not
Yeah.
to tell anyone about
You're
it.
ending it. Yeah.
It was great. It was a great experience. Yeah, the things like that. Of course, I got to visit the locations, filming locations, which are spectacular. Just to see, because it's almost like being a tourist to Star Wars planets when you do that.
Yeah.
And so it's been great. And I've had so many awesome experiences as a result of this.
So in your experiences, in your collecting, in your authoring and all that, what do you think has been the best part of all of this for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. The best part. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of aspects I like about it.
Mm-hmm.
I do. I've always focused on very early days for me of collecting. Like I personally view collecting as a social hobby.
Mm-hmm.
There are definitely those collectors that just sort of hide in the shadows and just collect on their own,
Mm-hmm.
their own thing, which is fine, to each their own.
Right.
But I've always been big about the community and friends you make and all that, and not I mean I think I think a lot of collectors don't actually realize how social of a hobby it is. And so one of the things I used to do very early on is I would go to toy shows and I would meet other collectors. I keep seeing them at the toy shows. I say, hey, how about we all get together outside of these toy shows and do something together? And so I built for example, the first Star Wars collecting club in the United States in Seattle. I created that, and then I created some communities online. And so I've always been about the community, because in collecting, you really are trying to learn more from others,
Right.
open up opportunities from others. And, it's just fun that way. You're sharing it with other like-minded people too.
Right.
And so that to me has always been, I think, the most valuable thing about it. I mean, there's lots of other things you can do with friends too. You don't have to collect to make friends, but I think that it's a social hobby, and so I think that's a very exciting part of it and a fun part of it.
And I have to say, like, I've absolutely fallen in love with the Star Wars community when I started writing. I mean, I've always loved Star Wars, but oh my gosh, I had no idea how warm and compassionate and just wonderful everybody is in that community. It's just, I had no idea, and I'm so grateful to be a part of it now in my little way, but I absolutely just love it. And I think for you that you've been involved with so many aspects of it, really, and all the experiences. I mean, you could write your own book with, your adventures, your
totally.
Star Wars adventures, right?
Great stories. There's lots of stories about stuff. That we did. It's great. I mean, it is a very warm and open community.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because very few other licenses or very few other franchises have that community in the same, intensity and depth. I mean, there's fans of everything.
Right.
But and if you follow other fandom, you see small pockets of fans of particular things. But Star Wars is just this humongous ongoing community.
I know.
It's really
and it's growing.
Franchises.
I know, and it's growing because you've got 500 first members. You've got the generations upon generations. I mean, it's never ending, right? So I was just curious, for anybody listening that wants to start a collection or get in touch with other collectors, what would you suggest might be the best route for them to go?
Yeah, great question. Well, I think I would start. Well, first of all, I think it's a great idea to get in touch with other collectors, because I think one of a lot of the rookie mistakes that people make when they start collecting is they rush into it and they learn mistakes that others had already learned that they could have learned from.
Right. Yeah.
And so networking with other collectors is a great thing. The online communities, particularly on Facebook, there are tons of different groups, and some of them are local groups. And if you search around, depending on your area, you search around, if you live in New York, you say New York Star Wars collectors, and there's actually a New York collecting group. So you can find out about all these different groups. I mean, they have it everywhere: Kentucky and Florida, Ohio, California, pretty much everywhere. There are Star Wars collecting groups, and you find out. I would start online, and even if you don't have a local group, there's some great sort of national and international online communities, and there's actually so many of them now that and not just on like Facebook. There are also forums on some of the major websites, but it seems like a lot of the chatter is moving over to Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I would recommend,
Okay.
is just getting plugged in with that.
Okay, very good. That's really good advice, because I know that it's something that everybody can collect. They can be do it, slowly. They can do it, build it slowly, or choose something that they'd like to collect. I mean, everybody kind of has that penchant for a collection of something, be it
Yeah,
shoes or purses or whatever. But you know what I mean? Everybody kind of loves to collect. I don't know if that's from our hunting and gathering days or whatever, but
yeah.
you know.
I think actually a lot of people who are collectors are reluctant to call themselves collectors because they get psyched out when they see big collections and they think,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
well, I'm not really a collector. I'm like, well,
Oh,
no, actually, even the person that buys like 3 or 4 Star Wars posters, like they're a
that's
collector.
a collector,
Uh,
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
You don't have to
Huh.
have hundreds of something to be a collector. Gee, Gus, thank you so much for sharing all of that with us. And I mean,
Sure.
I've known a bit about you, but I've learned something new, and I think that is just a ride. I can't wait to see some photos of your Sahara desert endeavors, down the road.
Yeah. Check it
But
out.
yeah, gosh. All right. Well,
Yeah.
listen, have a wonderful rest of the weekend and last bit of the evening here before everybody heads back tomorrow. But again, it was lovely having you, and thank you for being on the show.
Sure, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Take care. Bye bye.
Okay, bye.
Oh my goodness, that is so fun. I can't even imagine going out to the Sahara Desert, and like it would be dangerous to go out there. You don't kind of think about it in our age of technology. You think you're almost safe everywhere, or things can't happen, natural disasters. Well, natural disasters can happen, but think about breaking down in the middle of nowhere without assistance. So, at the beginning of the show, I had said that I wanted to know where you guys were on May 25th, 1977, or where you were on the first time you saw Star Wars. So you can comment in there if you would like, or you can call in at 844-483-4763 as I'm going to be winding down the show. Before I let you know where I've been, I just want to welcome also Jeff and Heather and Rob and Magdalena and Katie and Rob for I already saw Rob to the show tonight. It's really been interesting sharing and talking with Gus. But any of you could tell me where you guys were to see your show. The thing about Star Wars, so I grew up always loving science fiction. My dad loved science fiction, and it was Star Trek for us, because I mean that was many years before Star Wars came out, and so my dad had introduced me to Star Trek. He was an astronomer, hobbyist astronomer, studied astrophysics, so the science fiction bug was always in our family. But when I was in junior high school back in Alberta, Canada, my friend Bev Credo was having a birthday party, and she let us know that we were going to be going to a movie for that, which was kind of a big deal. That long ago, you didn't really have the opportunity to go to movies a lot with a birthday party, because that was kind of an expense. So, anyways, when she told us about that we were going to be going seeing Star Wars, I was kind of like, Star Wars? Like, what is that? And that was like one of the most memorable birthday parties I'd ever been to in my life, because we came out of that theater. We had no idea what had hit us. It was just something that was way beyond our we just couldn't even understand what we saw. We had never seen something like that. It was quite a bit of a difference than my Star Trek watching days, and then all that on the big screen. So that's where I was. Kate Wallace she was at her house with her best friend at the time, watching it. So she said I was not born yet, so she started it as a teenager. So I guess, whenever you were born, I guess. Michelle says I was just a baby in 1977. We were a big science fiction Star Trek family to start too. So you don't have to tell me exactly if you were around in 1977, but you most likely would have seen Star Wars either on maybe a VHS, I'm thinking, or for the not remakes, but the CGI version of the originals in the 1990s. So if you want to share that with me, and I have still, well, my husband's VHS, the Star Wars on that, and it's not like from. It is actually from 1977, but we didn't buy it in 1977 because we didn't have access to VHS in 1977. But when it did come out on VHS, we did have it. But now we just buy it on our Fire TV and watch them. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for joining me tonight on this really special edition, the Star Wars edition. It's definitely got my heart, my soul, and I can't wait for the Star Wars edition to come out this summer that I've been working feverishly on. There's a lot of amazing stories from so many folks out there that I just want to share with the world, and so I had to do something Star Wars tonight in honor of our May 25th, 42 years of Star Wars. And share my lightsaber. So be on the lookout for my lightsaber wielding recording that we will upload sometime this week because I'm pretty proud of it. You're never too old to try something new, and I just had a lot of fun with it. I just want to say hi to Donna Joe, who's just joined me now. Hi, Donna. And for any of you that have not been able to see the whole show, it will be uploaded momentarily so that you can watch it. For now, you guys have a great rest of your evening, a wonderful week. Be safe. Bye bye for now.